since we have done things that are a little bit complex these last sessions, I wanted something a little bit lighter for this one. So we will talk about the cockpit. How do we handle that? So we have a side view here, okay? And now we need to decide a little bit where will be the cockpit outside of that. So that's something that I've used here. And I've defined, of course, everything. When you design things inside, you have to make sure that you have a solid basis. So this is the basis that I will use for my design. As you can see here, I've used a little bit the slicer, okay, that I've shown you a little bit before, in order to make sure that my cockpit walls will be along this slicer. And this is, of course, always using, you know, the resin width as mm, the thickness of the wall in a way, and then after that is positioned a little bit like that. So sorry, I didn't show you, but no, that's something which is important. All the big dimensions, you know, they are somehow named. So here, for example, the cockpit base is named. The dashboard Y is named, and also a little point here at the middle, which is the start of the floor is named. And because everything must be associated with this single sketch, which is the basis of everything. So how to go from there? First of all, there are some CS72 plastic models about this thing. So I'm able to look at what people have done, you know, a little bit like that. So that's a first impression here. Another guy, which is a little bit more documented with Le Fana, has got something like that, which is not too far from reality, I think. Except that for me, there is a little problem, is that there is a floor here. I will tell you why I think it's a problem. Then he went to a wood imitation and everything like that, and at the end he has done something like that. So there is this. But also on the FANA, l'aviation, there is a view about the PA 100 that I've put roughly at the same location in a way that gives me something like that. That is a good in a way. Model in order to see where will be the rudder pedals, where will be the stick, and what is the shape of the seat. In fact, to tell you the truth, in my reference, I'm also using some things, which is something that I'm calling a Pilot 2D, which is a little sketch that I can play with. So of course the dimensions are in such a way that it's a guy, roughly a guy, let's say at a 48 scale. I've decorated it a little bit with a 3D view. Oops. A 3D view using the same skeleton in a way that allows me to see a little bit. So of course the goal is not not to have that as a figurine or whatever. The goal is to make sure that I'm compatible with a proper human of roughly 1 meter, 80 centimeters high, tall, and everything like that. So that's that. So once I have that, well, that's fairly easy. First of all, the first thing that I wanted to do is, because here, okay, you don't see it, but here I will go back to the PA 22. There is a window here, and in fact you can imagine that when you want to land that thing, you need to go through that in order to assess a little bit how far is the ground and everything like that. So for me, there is a wall between the head of the pilot I will put back my pilot between the head of the pilot and this goes through that floor, okay? And this is why I've put, I would say, a floor start at that level here, okay? So that there is a direct line between this and this. Okay, you like it, you don't like it. That's, I mean, that's we need to invent a little bit things here, but anyway, that's why I'm having fun doing these kind of things. So what does it mean? It means that I'm able to define a cockpit-based tool that's going to be something like that. That will, in a way, this is roughly the angle of the internal of the fuselage, and this is the little round because yes, it's true that if you remember here, see, you see a little handle, a little crank. That's for the torsion of the front wings, if I'm not mistaken, and so that means that I need to have that too. Okay, so if I need to have that too, I need to have that too in my cockpit base, and that gives me some at the end something which is like that. Okay, again I have a hole. Okay, and then what? I will need to put that inside the fuselage. Now it's a little bit tricky because I cannot really use, I would say, the fuselage that I've used to carve out or to carve in the interior or whatever, because it should be a little bit smaller, and I will come back on that later. So I've played a little bit, so I've added a little trim wheel, and again remember that everything here I'm not everything is based uh, on the dimensions that you've seen here. So for example, this 7 mm here is coming from my cockpit basis. Okay, so everything is there. The same. Everything is using the measures that I've defined in my sketch of the base. Okay, so I have that. Then I have a little stick. For the little stick, I want very. I mean, when you have a change of shapes and everything like that, I'm not using a sweep anymore because you need to define anyway the sweep sketch that will define the shapes and everything like that. So I'm going directly for a little loft in order to have that. Okay, then the pedals. So yeah, at the beginning I was doing some like pedals a little bit in the style of the Spitfire, but looking at the PA100, I think that it's not exactly that. I have added also a little column throttle because usually the throttle is not attached to the walls, the side walls, which is pretty light in a way. My guess is that you need to have throttle, so that's it. So this is the Spitfire like, and so in fact I've defined some rudder pedals. So I've used the PA100 kind of profile in order to have that pedals. Okay, and so very easy, I mean no complex stuff. So yeah, each one they are defined by only one pedal sketch with one extrude for one side, one extrude for the other side, and then one extrude for what's inside, and that's it. So something which is very simple because there is not that much of documentation anywhere. Now the little problem, and then the dashboard dials I've started. So of course I will add the crank at the middle here, and this is looking at Yeah, one of the photo here, for example, you can see that there are big dials over there. So here, that's a little bit of the power of imagination. So we can go. I can do the same thing than that or not. Not sure. Okay. Anyway, so I will do some dials a little bit like that, and then after that there is the seat. So the seat is very simple. Again, I do the right arm is like that, and in fact, again, it's using the PA 100 as a guide, a rough guide in a way. Okay, so that's it. Then I have I have this. I have the symmetric. Okay, and I have a middle which is a little bit further and higher in order to give that curve shaped, which give me something like that. Okay, and then after that I'm just doing a right seat arm, which is this kind of shape, and again this kind of shape is given by the PA 100 kind of shape, as you can see here. So I didn't invent that much of things there. So that's the seat. Now we will have to deal with the problem of having that, oops, yes, at the correct dimension for the inside. The little problem that we're having is that, in fact, that's exactly, at the point where, there is roughly the beginning of the whole of the Karman, plus, the junction of the back interior on the front interior. So we will have to think a little bit in order to have these walls here, and also to make sure that I have the proper shape and inside shapes for all of this. So I will think about that and come back to you. So to tell you the truth, at the beginning, I basically what I've done is that I've done an interior of the full um, fuselage, which is something like that. Okay, using exactly the same kind of techniques that you've seen me using, which is the little cut inside. So, but the thing is that instead of using only the resin width, I've used the resin width plus the tolerance in order to have something inside the interior in a way. As you can see, that's the first thing that I've done here, and that allowed me to get something like that. But that's a little bit too complex for the purpose of what we want to do. Um, so in fact, I had another idea. So what did I do is that I kind of wrapped my cockpit base, which is there. Okay, I've wrapped that into a rectangle. That rectangle, I've done an extrude. That extrude, I've done a common with the skin, because everything that I'm defining is defining under a skin. And then I'm offsetting that and using, of course, a resin thickness plus the tolerance. I'm doing a symmetric of that with a fusion after that. And now that I have that, I can slice that cockpit base with my fusion. And as soon as we're doing that, we have a slice here, which is exactly the proper slide. So much simpler, okay? And if I compare that with my inside, in fact, I'm almost sure that here, you can see that there is the little difference of tolerance, okay? At the beginning here, it's a little bit less sure because that's not the skin of the mid fuselage or the rear fuselage that is used, but it's the one from the front fuselage. Normally they should join, but you know, we are talking about a 0.1 millimeter difference, okay? And here you can see here that there is a little bit of, you know, going inside and everything like that. So it's good. Now I have two problems. Usually when I do those kind of things, first of all, I need to have some guides in order to make sure that I put that into the proper place. Second, I like to have things that are a little bit, you know, underneath. I like to have something underneath because I'm always afraid that you know, the things will drop down in the fuselage and that I will not be able to recoup it. So if I have something which is close here and something which is here, in order to maintain that, I should be good. So I will think about that and come back to you. So I decided to do something simple again. Okay. So what did I do? I've done that, which is a kind of two pieces that would allow me, you know, with the little. I have to check here. Okay, it seems that it has moved a little bit, so that means that normally this should be there. Okay. So there, there. Global sheet tolerance. Okay. Okay. So that is okay. So I've defined those two pieces here that I have extruded as usual, that I have associated with you know, the skin, which again I have extruded, but this time I've done twice the resin thickness minus half of the resin thickness, and all the trick was to know if I was able to, you know, fusion it with the slice, and it seems that it worked. So that means that here I have my little things, and normally that little things, if I'm comparing that with that, I should have exactly the little space here that is in between that will allow me, I would say, to put that in confidence. So do I need another one? I think I'm good with that. In a way, I can add another one here, but that's normally it cannot go too much on this direction because it's blocked here. So it will be here and here, so that should be okay. And so it seems that with that, I have solved my problem about putting the floor into my plane. Now, what to do with those walls? The little problem is that it's, as we all know, it's a tricky part of the model here because there is a junction between those two things. So, um, how to handle that is something that I need to think a little bit. Okay, so dealing with the walls. I tried to fill out the hole left by the carman here, but that was really too difficult because there is both the carman that is into that place, there is the junction between the two front and the middle fuselage and everything like that. So the only thing that I was able to do was to remove I would say a section here in order to flatten that, and then after that I can have the cockpit ribs. So cockpit ribs, it's a little bit the same thing that usual. It's you know, the extrusion, then intersection with the surface, then using an offset. So that's pretty easy to do. And then after that, I wanted to have a clean portion here in the cockpit wall, because if not, the ribs would have a little bit of trouble fitting. As you can see here, there is this section here, there is a little bit of overlap everywhere. So all the idea is from this fusion to take a little bit the same thing. So I've taken a surface, which is a wall inside, I would say, the cockpit element in a way. As usual, I've done an extrude. So this was twice the resin thickness in order to go really inside, I would say, the fuselage. And then I've done the same thing, but here that's the resin thickness times 0.9. So if I remove those two things, that give me a kind of wall, that will erase everything that are of difference. The big news is that was it possible to do that, to do the cut with the fusion? And the answer is yes, it worked. So now I have this cut here, which is really the thing on which I can put the ribs with confidence in a way. Now I will not do a union here, because I want to be able to fill that with any kind of filler, and then after that gluing the ribs all together. So with this, I think that's conclude that section. So